Good afternoon, folks. How are you? Oh, I can't hear you. Oh, good. Good. That's a woohoo for Mike Babcock, right? Toronto Maple Leafs? Is that right? My name's Wayne Gudbranson. I'm CEO of Branham Group, and we're a Canadian-based, globally focused industry analyst firm. And with the exception of the Branham 300, where you'll see us, you don't normally see us out in the marketplace. We do about 60% of our revenues in the States with some very, very large companies in the San Francisco area in New York, and the other 30% here in Canada and 10% around the world. So we really do a lot of interesting kick-ass market research and go-to-market strategy stuff, but I can't tell you anything about it, right? Or I'd be sued. There's one or two clients in here. They would sue me if I said their name. Would it? No, you wouldn't, eh? No, okay. All right. So I'm delighted to be here in Toronto. I live in Ottawa, but I tell my Ottawa friends that I'm a Torontonian now, and to a certain extent that's true, because I'm here almost every week. I live at a hotel over there, and I've been doing this for about 10 years, because Toronto is really the center of our ICT universe here in Canada. It just is. And that is heresy for somebody from Ottawa saying that, because back then we had the Sir Terry Matthews, Mike Copelands, the Cognoses. In fact, I just met up with Paul Hill. He and I worked together at Cognos years ago. And so, there's a whole ecosystem and mafia that's moved down to Ottawa down here, I think, right? Yeah, we're Ottawa, mafia, right? That's what we are. I'm delighted to be here, and I'll tell you why. We ran our Branham 300 launch in Toronto April 22nd. It was at the I forgot the name of the bar in Liberty Village. Anyways, it was a real success. We stuffed 225 people in a place that held 140. We broke the fire code, and we were in serious doo-doo. And so they were going to turn away people. But some of the folks that were there included Obero. And this is such an exciting firm. And I'll tell you why it's exciting, because I said so. And we track the industry very closely in this country. And we look at the top 250 companies all the time, and we're very excited about this. And not only do we work with foreign multinationals, I'm very excited about the Canadian ecosystem, of which Obero's one of those going forward. This is actually, Paul you may know who this is, but it's not who we worked with. It's somebody else, but it's 20 years ago. When I was putting together and reviewed this presentation, I remembered a few quotes from some very senior people. This is from the former CEO of a highly successful software company 20 years ago that walked away like a robber baron and made a ton of coin, right? And I asked him, why were you so successful? What was your sales strategy? And he literally said this: hire sales reps that like expensive lifestyles, and your quota will be overachieved. I think to a certain extent that's true. I mean, the trouble is that, as I get into a little bit later on, that's really good for the individual, but it may not be good for the company, and that's where SPM is actually doing the job, right? The second one is this. I worked at Cognos, and I was senior product manager by the time I left. I was the first market research manager for Cognos. I learned a ton from Mike Potter, and he would ask questions like, Wayne, I want to buy this company. Okay, and you wanted the business plan yesterday. He said, yeah, that's right. And so I learned all that, and that's why I set up Branham Group, right? Because I worked with guys like that. They're very demanding, right? But one of the sales reps, and I held it was a $100 million company at the time. I was responsible for Data General, AOSVS. I'm really showing my age, by the way. I'm really showing. I'm actually a Norwegian. I'm 75 years of age, and I work out, so I look 42. That's what I just want to make sure you know that, right? But this is what Bob would say to me when he came up to Ottawa. He said, I always like coming to HQ to visit the overheads. Now that's a very interesting statement from a sales rep, but I'll tell you what I learned from that. This is what I learned from that, is that normally when you get a check every 2 weeks, if you're not selling, you really don't understand where that money comes from, right? So think about that, right? Now, is anybody here from the Canadian federal government? No, put your hand up. It's okay, right? I'll probably skewer you, but anyways, most people in certain industries get a check every 2 weeks, and they don't understand where it comes from, okay? Okay, how did I get this check, right? I know a lot of people in here, I know exactly where your check comes from, right? Know exactly. So that's in the context. It's part of the sales process. So here's the biggest risk in any enterprise. I wrote a paper for NRC 25 years ago, and back then it was sheer heresy, and I thought they were going to, give me the same treatment they gave Joan of Arc. But It is, by the way, a company is not a company unless you have sales. Now, I know to you this sounds really elementary, right? But there's a lot of companies out there that don't generate sales, and they're fundamentally not a company. Sales is where the rubber hits the road, folks. That's where it hits the road, right? And so you need infrastructure and support mechanisms to support that going forward. But there's always been a disconnect between sales and the rest of the company. Historically, it's huge, right? You know, I look at the shadow accounting, and I was just actually, you know, nodding on Paul a little bit. Remember when, right, way back when? But there's a lot of that still goes on today, to my complete surprise, by the way, protecting something, and that gets into individual compensation models, and you've got to get rid of that. So here's one of the things. The dots have never been connected within an enterprise. Sales has never been connected to HR, finance, marketing, manufacturing, distribution, R&D. They're not connected in the way that you think they should be and in the way I think they should be, right? I mean, fundamentally, those organizations need to know what's going on in sales. Otherwise, they get a check every 2 weeks. Right? Now, they don't need to know the details, but it has to be that level of clarity going forward. And of course, there's not a lot of integration with key apps like CRM, ERP, HCM, and so on. It really isn't going forward. The impacts of poor alignment, or where the dots aren't connected, are several, by the way. You have a poor alignment with corporate goals and objectives. Now, isn't that kind of an interesting phrase for somebody that's in corporate planning for a large corporation, right? Let me be explicitly clear. My organization, the product that we sell to a large extent is market research. We will get you the data you need to make fundamental decisions going forward, right? It's amazing even today, the number of organizations don't understand how to integrate intelligence in the corporate decision-making process and how that aligns to corporate goals and objectives, right? Well, the same thing is true for sales, right? It's that we rely on those guys and girls because they generate the coin, which means we get the check, right? But it's not tightly integrated even today. It's better, but it's not tightly coupled, right? Ineffective sales targeting as well. When you don't have it tightly coupled, the sales targeting is very challenging. There's inaccurate intelligence to support effective decision making and risk reduction, by the way. So sales reps today should be your actually formative market researchers in many respects. You should be bringing intelligence back into the organization so you can plan, refine, and so on. That's not done to the extent that we think it should be going forward, right? And there's behavior alignment issues as well, by the way. If the wrong kind of sales compensation model is in place, and all of us have experienced this, you generate a behavior model that's not consistent with generating corporate goals and objectives, right? Everybody knows what a goal is, right? I want to be a $20 million company. An objective is, one of the objectives is we're going to do that through 60% of our sales are going to be indirect, and that's going to, okay, all right. It's always useful to go through that vernacular, right? Because sometimes it's, you know, impacts. Individual compensation rules, and this is a death to the company. So that guy or girl over there is doing 150% of quota. They're walking away with $750,000 in a nice car, and the organization over there is having trouble margining, or, you know what I mean, controlling the margin. This can happen, and that's where you need tools to help going forward. There's an ineffective focus on revenue growth, margin maximization, profitability, market segment positioning, which is becoming more and more very, very critical, particularly when you take in the big data equation going forward. And there's corporate underachievement. When you have the wrong kind of comp model and you're not managing it properly and it's not integrated in terms of the overall organization, you have corporate achievement problems going forward. And you know a lot of companies, you've seen them out themselves, and at the source is actually the sales performance modeling going forward. The real question is, are you using an integrated product, fully integrated SPM going forward? So, do you know when Obro asked me, would you come by to speak, I thought, oh, what an interesting opportunity, because I like this topic, I really do. So what we did was do a survey of our ecosystem, the Branham 300, the top 250 Canadian ICT companies, asked them, what are you using, right? So I had my team go out and ask. And here are some data. Now, this is the one that I don't totally believe, but this is the number I gave, and I'll tell you why I don't completely believe. But 25% of the companies we surveyed on the top 250 said they still use spreadsheets as a major platform going forward. I think it's about double that. And so I asked my team, was there hesitancy in that response? And they said it was more like embarrassment. They couldn't believe that there were a technology company who were saying, I still use Excel spreadsheets. Don't tell anybody, right? So I think that number's higher, and it's particularly high among SMEs, right? And so we went after, I actually phoned a couple companies underneath the $5 million platform target, in terms of overall revenue based on our list. And it's just a hodgepodge, but most of them are using Excel spreadsheets, and they desperately need a new product going forward, right? Because they're the ones that are getting hounded by venture capitalists and PEs and so on, and get your house in order kind of thing. So it's really, really important you have that kind of stuff. Only 10%. When we talk about sales performance management, we talk about predictive analytics, which is really a hot topic. It's important, right? And that's a subset of big data, right? But only 10% are using data, longitudinal data for predictive analytics, right? So in fact, when you're trying to define your target audience, your sales strategy, your sales comp, they're not using longitudinal data in such a way that helps them formulate that, right? It's still not there. It's very much in a state of infancy. 75% are using multiple products. Multiple products. It's a hodgepodge. And I could go through, and in fact, Leon, I'll share some of the products we came across. I never heard of half of them, right? I think they gave them names for fear that to sound like their software, like Go software or something, right? Oh, well, who's that? So anyway, 75% are using multiple products. It's a hodgepodge out there, and they need a totally integrated sales performance management system. 40% are endeavoring to integrate, all right? There was a fair bit of Salesforce out there, I'll be honest with you, a fair bit. But there was also, is anybody here Salesforce customers? I shouldn't have said that, eh? But they're out there, right? You got to recognize they're out. Oh, okay, all right. Some of them said it was kind of kludgy and difficult, right? So, shocker, anyways. So 40% are trying to integrate going forward. 45% indicated that they believe sales compensation determination is easy. I've been in the business for 30 years. I was just working out a sales comp plan for a new employee in my business. It was one of the most difficult things. Now, I could be going senile because of my age, but geez, it was tough, right? So it's not that easy, but it was interesting to find out that that was the case. When we introduced a sort of incentive compensation management strategy, ICM, 58% wanted to know more about it, right? So what that really means, 58% know nothing about it, and were, felt uncomfortable actually recognizing the fact that they knew nothing about it. So there's a huge opportunity in that regard. So basically we found that there's a huge demand for greater alignment of sales processes with corporate goals and objectives, and that's increasing. And by the way, that's commonplace across all sectors as well, right? No matter where you go. You particularly see it in healthcare these days, finally. There's some sort of understanding that we have to align expenditures with corporate goals and objectives going forward, right? Integrated sales performance management market will grow dramatically. I was pushing my guys to come out with a CAGR, a number, and so I didn't like the number, so I'm not going to share it with you. It was actually 39%. All right, okay, I shared that with you. So 38% CAGR. So the pressure to sell is encouraging buyers to augment or upgrade their environment. It is there. There are new integrated SPM vendors that are entering the marketplace. We know of a few others as well on a worldwide basis, by the way, going forward. The vendors are proving they will disrupt the market. Now, this is very, very fundamental, by the way. The most exciting thing about today's age is this. There's a whole pile of legacy applications out there, and I've never seen an opportunity, my team and I have never seen an opportunity to replace that as there was today. If you come in with a very, very strong value proposition and the pricing model is there, now is the time to do it. You're seeing a lot of interest in the marketplace across horizontal apps, across vertical spectrums, and what we call verticals for this. And so I think there's a huge opportunity for disruptors to go forward. And one such player and solution is Obro. Now, I'm not just saying that. We track them in the Branham 300. They've had tremendous growth. They got to be doing something right, so we did a lot of research in them, and the response rate has been very good. In fact, we've connected with some of their customers out there. They don't know that, and they were pretty impressed, right? So that's the acid test for us when we do a presentation like this. What is the overall return or response? And by the way, well over 82% satisfaction rate for the ones that we talked to. So they're also a Branham 300 company. Isn't that a pretty logo? I love that logo. We should actually be in the t-shirt business. I think it's really cool. The white t-shirt business, right? But they're a top 250 company, and they're growing like gangbusters, and I think they'll be double what they were last year. I expect them to be, because I want to talk about them more, right, going forward. That's me, if you want to get a hold of me. All right. Thank you. That was it.